Hey everybody, Chris here. First things first, I have a sleeping, sick, and teething baby on my chest. So if you hear snoring or gurgling noises, that's why. Second, today is launch day of my new podcast, Written in Stone, Climbing's Most Important Ascents. And I wanted to come on here, tell you a little bit about the show, and give you a little taste of what it is in hopes that you head over there and become a listener. So this whole thing sort of came about because I wanted to recapture the stories and the mythology of climbing. We get lots of full-length interviews where we're trying to fit a climber's entire lifetime of climbing into an hour or 2 hour long interview. And those end up becoming more about, here are the facts of what happened, and less about, here are the interesting stories and the context around it and the legacy that is remaining after the fact, and how all of these ascents and these climbers sort of connected and interacted. And all of that's really fascinating to me. And I miss the days of, reading John Long's stories or any of the great authors that are out there on alpinism or big wall climbing or traditional climbing. And we seem to have fewer of those in sport climbing and in bouldering. And that doesn't mean that this podcast is going to be entirely sport climbing and bouldering. Even this first season, the 90s, is not. But I do think there are really important touchstones in sport climbing and bouldering that don't get covered in the literature. So that's why I wanted to make the podcast. And the way it's going to work is there are going to be 10 ascents that I'm focused on throughout the season, and you'll get several episodes on each ascent. First will be a story that I'm narrating and sound designing and scoring. And my friend Riley Rush is helping me write some of those. Emily Holland is working on brand partnerships and production for the podcast. So it's just the three of us. And you'll get that story. And then the following week, you'll get a conversation with one of today's best climbers about how they were inspired by either the climber or the ascent that the story is about. So I think it's a really interesting look at the drama and the interactions, and then the legacy when we're talking to today's climbers. So the first 2 episodes are out today, and they are Lynn Hill Reaches Critical Mass, the story of Lynn Hill becoming the first woman to climb 514, and it's a really fascinating story that still is, we're still seeing the ramifications of this type of thing today. We still see this happening today. So I think it's very pointed. And then the conversation is with Katie Brown, who needs no introduction, one of the best sport climbers in history. In fact, Lynn Hill called her the best sport climber in the history of the sport. Both of those episodes are over on the feed now. You're going to be getting a new episode every week, sometimes 2 a week, for the next 20 plus weeks. So I would love it if you head over there to that feed. You can find the links right there in the show notes, and subscribe. And please tell your friends, share it with people you know who love this kind of thing. We've put a ton of work into it, and I really think you're going to love it. And last thing, this whole thing does not happen without the support from you all, with Power Company Climbing, and from the generosity of Tension Climbing, who is the main sponsor of Season 1. So please use the codes that you're going to hear in the episodes. Those codes let everybody know that you're listening and that you appreciate the support that they're giving this podcast. And maybe, fingers crossed, that means we get a season 2. So I'm going to leave you with the beginning of the episode, Lynn Hill reaches critical mass. And once it's done, head over to the feed to hear the rest of the stories. Just search Written in Stone, Climbing's Most Important Ascents, in whatever podcast app you're using. All right. Thanks, everybody. Every generation of athletes believes they've seen the limits of human performance. Nobody will ever be better than we are right now. No way. Scientists claimed the 4-minute mile wasn't even possible. Roger Bannister didn't listen. Long jump 29 feet, never gonna happen. Have you even heard of physics? Bob Beeman didn't listen. Score 100 points in a single game? Preposterous. Wilt Chamberlain didn't listen. And so, when a French superstar climber made a claim about what women climbers would be capable of, or more precisely, what they wouldn't be capable of, Lynn Hill didn't listen. I'm Chris Hampton. You're listening to Written in Stone, Climbing's Most Important Ascents. This is Season 1, the 1990s.
1, 2,